Dad, I need your apartment this weekend. Don't ask questions. Those 9 words, that's all it took to send my Saturday morning coffee straight down the wrong pipe, leaving me sputtering over my kitchen sink like a broken fountain while my phone buzzed impatiently in my hand. My daughter, Maya, 23 years old, fiercely independent, the kind of person who once insisted on assembling an entire IKEA wardrobe alone at midnight rather than ask for help, was asking me for something. Not just asking, demanding. With the audacity of someone who had clearly rehearsed this message 17 times before finally hitting send. I stared at those words for a long moment. Then I typed back the only reasonable response a father could manage under such circumstances. Hello to you too. Let me paint you a picture of who I am, because context matters here. My name is Daniel Okafor. I am 54 years old. I wake up at 6:15 every morning without an alarm, brew a single cup of Ethiopian blend in a French press that cost more than my first car payment, and I read the newspaper, an actual newspaper, the physical kind, ink and all, while sitting in the same armchair I've owned for 11 years. I have a routine, I have a system. My apartment, a 2-bedroom on the 4th floor of a building in the kind of quiet neighborhood, where dogs wear sweaters and people wave at each other genuinely, is my sanctuary. Everything in it has a place. The throw blankets are folded in thirds. The spice rack is alphabetized, not because I'm obsessive, but because after 30 years of raising 2 kids through chaos, carpools, and the particular madness that comes with a house full of noise, I had earned my quiet. I had built my quiet deliberately, the way a gardener cultivates something fragile and precious. My ex-wife, Patricia, and I had separated 6 years ago, amicably, as these things sometimes go when 2 people realize they've become better friends than lovers. She kept the house in the suburbs. I got the apartment and the French press. We both agreed it was a fair trade, and we meant it. My son Marcus was 26 and lived 3 states away, doing something with renewable energy that I only half understood but fully bragged about to anyone who would listen. Maya, my youngest, lived 40 minutes across the city in a shared apartment with 2 roommates named Jess and Big Tom, a nickname whose origins I had never successfully investigated. Maya called me every Sunday. She visited on holidays. She sent me memes I didn't fully understand, but always responded to with enthusiastic thumbs-up emojis, because I had learned that this was the language of showing love in the modern era. She had never, in the 3 years since I'd moved into this apartment, asked to borrow it. I called her immediately. She answered on the 2nd ring, which meant she had been waiting. Before you say anything, she started. Too late, I said. I'm already saying things. What's going on? It's not a big deal. Maya, you texted me at 7:45 on a Saturday morning with what I can only describe as a hostage negotiation opener. What is happening? There was a pause. I heard her exhale, that particular exhale I had catalogued over 23 years, the one that meant she was deciding how much to tell me. Jess's boyfriend is visiting from out of town, she said finally. Okay. And Big Tom's girlfriend is also visiting. Also okay. And another pause. I kind of maybe told someone I would cook them dinner here at my place, except my place is currently going to be a romantic collision zone all weekend and I can't exactly. She stopped, started again. I just need somewhere quiet with a real kitchen. Your kitchen is incredible, Dad. You have a mandolin slicer. Who has a mandolin slicer? Responsible adults who enjoy evenly sliced vegetables, I said. Who are you cooking for? The pause that followed was approximately 3.5 seconds longer than any innocent pause needed to be. A friend, she said. A friend, I repeated. Yes. A friend for whom you require an entire borrowed apartment, a mandolin slicer, and apparently a level of privacy that your current living situation cannot provide. Dad, I'm not judging, I'm cataloguing. She laughed despite herself. That quick, surprised laugh she'd had since she was 7 years old, the one that always made me feel like I'd won something small and worthwhile. His name is Caleb, she said quietly. We've been talking for a few months, and I wanted to make him dinner, properly, not take out on my bed while Big Tom watches football at full volume through the wall. I was quiet for a moment, not because I was angry, not because I was hurt she hadn't told me sooner, but because something in the careful softness of the way she said his name, Caleb, told me this was not a casual thing. This was the kind of thing a person guards before they're sure it's real, before they trust the universe not to jinx it. The mandolin slicer is in the 2nd drawer on the left, I said. Don't rush the onions, use medium heat. She made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a small, relieved sob. So you'll go to Mom's. I'll figure out my weekend, yes. I'll leave everything exactly as I found it, I swear. I'll even re-alphabetize your spices. You know about the spices? Dad, I've known about the spice thing since 2019. We've all known. I packed an overnight bag with the quiet efficiency of a man who had nowhere urgent to be and was pretending that didn't sting even slightly. It wasn't that I was upset about giving up the apartment. Truly, if anything, some warm, deep part of me was quietly thrilled. The same part that had coached Maya's soccer team when she was 9, helped her move into her first dorm room, watched her give a valedictorian speech that made her mother and me weep openly and without shame in a high school gymnasium. That part of me recognized the shape of this moment. My daughter carefully, privately building something that mattered to her. That was good, that was right. But I was also 54 years old with a packed bag and no concrete plan, which was a sentence I had not anticipated writing for myself on a Saturday. I called Patricia. She told you about Caleb, was the first thing she said. I stopped walking, you knew about Caleb. She mentioned him briefly, 3 weeks ago. Patricia paused. She made me promise not to tell you. Why? Because you get a look, Patricia said, with the gentle precision of someone who had studied me for 2 decades. When she tells you about people she cares about, you get very focused and intent and you ask very earnest questions and it makes her nervous. I'm a supportive father. You're an intense supportive father, there's nuance. I considered this, she needed my apartment. I know, she called me after she called you. She wanted to know if she'd been too abrupt. Patricia laughed softly. I told her you'd probably spend 15 minutes staring at your coffee and then give her whatever she asked for, because that's what you do. That's a very accurate prediction. 26 years of data. We talked for a few more minutes in the easy, unhurried way we'd learned to talk after the marriage ended, like two people who had decided that everything they'd built together was worth preserving, even the parts that didn't fit anymore. Before we hung up, she invited me to Sunday dinner, and I said I'd think about it, which we both understood meant yes. I ended up spending Saturday at my brother Raymond's house, 20 minutes north. Raymond was 58, retired early from a career in civil engineering, and had converted his garage into what he called a workshop and what I called a room full of half-finished birdhouses and one working lathe. We ate sandwiches, watched 2 innings of a baseball game neither of us particularly cared about, and then spent 4 hours restoring an old radio he'd found at an estate sale, the kind of afternoon that has no agenda and is, for that reason, quietly perfect. I didn't check my phone much. Maya sent one text at 3 in the afternoon, a single photo. My kitchen, warm with afternoon light, something rich and fragrant visible in a pot on the stove, a small candle lit on the counter I never used. She hadn't staged it. It was just what the room looked like, inhabited, alive. I looked at the photo for a long time. My apartment, which I had spent 3 years quietly, carefully filling with the particular textures of my own solitude, the right lighting, the alphabetized spices, the French press in its designated corner, had in the span of one afternoon become someone else's story. A beginning, maybe, the first chapter of something. I found that I didn't mind at all. She called me that evening, around 9. How'd it go? I asked before she could say anything. Dad, her voice was soft and a little undone in the way that means everything went better than expected. Good. Really good, a beat. He brought flowers. He didn't know they were for the apartment, he just brought them for the table. He said it seemed like the kind of dinner that deserved flowers. I smiled at my brother's ceiling. He sounds like a person with sense. He's a lot of things. She paused again, and in the pause I could hear her smiling, and I thought about how some sounds you carry forever, your child's laugh at age 2, the particular silence before they tell you something real. He asked if my dad taught me to cook. I said yes. He said I should thank you. You can tell him it was my pleasure. I told him about the spices. Maya. He thought it was charming. He said any man who alphabetizes his spice rack clearly has his priorities in order. She laughed. He wants to meet you, eventually, when we're. Whenever it's right, I said. Yeah, quietly, whenever it's right. I came home Sunday afternoon to an apartment that had been, as promised, restored to near-perfect order. Near-perfect, that's the important word. The spices were alphabetized correctly. I checked immediately. I'm not proud of it, but there was a small thing she hadn't meant to leave. On the kitchen counter, next to the French press in its corner, was a piece of paper folded in half. My name was written on the outside in her handwriting, which is rounder and more careful than you'd expect from someone who types everything. I opened it. Dad, thank you for the kitchen, the mandolin slicer, and not asking too many questions this time. The risotto turned out perfectly. I used medium heat on the onions like you said. I know I should have told you about Caleb sooner. I don't know why I waited, except that it felt like something I needed to be sure about before I shared it. I think I'm sure now. The apartment was perfect. You've made it really beautiful, you know. It felt like the right place for a first proper dinner, somewhere steady, somewhere that felt like you. I re-alphabetized the spices. You're welcome. Love, Maya. P.S. He's a good one, Dad. I think you'd like him. I stood in my kitchen for a while after reading that. Then I put the letter in the drawer where I keep things I want to keep. The birthday cards, Marcus's graduation photo, the small folded note Patricia left me the day she moved out that just said thank you for everything, Daniel. The drawer that is, in some ways, the truest inventory of my life. I put the kettle on. I ground the coffee. I sat in my armchair with my newspaper and my French press, and the particular quiet of a Sunday afternoon, which is the best kind of quiet there is, not the quiet of emptiness, but the quiet of a full life resting between its moments. On the counter, where Maya had left the candle, there was a faint ring of wax on the marble, the smallest possible evidence that something had happened here, that the apartment, my sanctuary of alphabetized spices and folded blankets, had held a story that wasn't mine. I looked at the ring, decided to leave it. Some marks you keep. 3 weeks later, Maya brought Caleb to Sunday dinner at Patricia's. He shook my hand with both of his, which is the kind of handshake that either means someone was raised right or has read too many self-help books. Within 4 minutes of meeting him, I had concluded it was the former. He knew about risotto, asked Raymond about the birdhouses with what appeared to be genuine curiosity, and at one point quietly refilled Patricia's water glass without being asked or making a thing of it. Maya watched me notice that last part. Our eyes met across the table. I gave her the smallest possible nod. She smiled, that quick, surprised smile she'd had since she was 7 years old. Later, helping Patricia with the dishes, while Raymond showed Caleb the lathe and Maya pretended not to monitor the whole situation from the doorway, Patricia nudged my arm. Well, she said quietly. I thought about a 9-word text on a Saturday morning, a borrowed apartment, a candle on the counter, a letter folded in half. He brought flowers, I said. Patricia raised an eyebrow. To dinner, I said. The first time he came to the apartment, he brought flowers for the table, without being asked, just because he thought it was that kind of dinner. She looked at me for a moment, then she turned back to the dishes. Yeah, she said softly, okay. That was all, it was enough. Some things you just know.